I'm Michael, a 38-year-old from Austin, Texas. My wife, Laura, and I have been married for 12 years. Throughout our marriage, we've maintained a joint bank account and have always been transparent about our finances, or so I thought. Recently, while organizing our financial documents for tax season, I stumbled upon a credit card statement addressed to Laura. This was surprising, as we had agreed to consolidate our finances and avoid using credit cards to prevent debt accumulation. Curiosity led me to open the statement, and what I discovered left me stunned. Laura had accumulated over $15,000 in credit card debt over the past 2 years. Feeling a mix of betrayal and confusion, I confronted Laura about the hidden debt. She admitted to opening the credit card without my knowledge, explaining that she used it to cover personal expenses and occasional splurges she didn't feel comfortable discussing with me. Laura expressed remorse and claimed she intended to pay off the debt herself without involving me. This revelation has caused significant strain in our marriage. Trust, which I believed was a cornerstone of our relationship, now feels fractured. I can't help but question what else might have been hidden from me. We've begun attending couples counseling to address the breach of trust and to develop a plan to manage and pay off the debt together. This experience has taught me the importance of open communication and financial transparency in a marriage. While the road to rebuilding trust is challenging, I'm hopeful that, with mutual effort and understanding, Laura and I can navigate this hurdle and strengthen our partnership. But that's what I thought 3 months ago. Now I know better. The day I found that credit card statement is etched into my memory like a scar. It was a crisp Saturday morning in February. Laura had gone to her weekly yoga class, at least, that's where she said she was going. I was in our home office, sorting through the usual mess of tax documents when the red envelope caught my eye. It was tucked beneath a stack of utility bills, its corner barely visible. Not hidden exactly, but certainly not in plain sight either. The card was in her name only, Laura Richardson, not Laura Anderson, her married name. That detail alone sent a chill through me. 12 years of marriage, and suddenly I was looking at a stranger's finances. When I confronted her that evening, Laura's face transformed in a way I'd never seen before. First came shock, then fear, followed quickly by a practiced apology that seemed to flow too easily from her lips. It's just a few shopping trips, Michael. Things I needed for work. Client dinners. Nothing serious. But $15,000 isn't nothing. Not to us. Not to anyone who works for a living. I was going to tell you once it was paid off, she said, her voice softening as she reached for my hand. I didn't want you to worry. Her explanation seemed reasonable enough. Laura had been promoted to senior marketing director at her firm last year. New clients, new responsibilities, new expenses. It made sense on the surface. I wanted to believe her. God, how I wanted to. For a week, I convinced myself it was a one-time mistake. We talked about budgeting. About communication. We even made an appointment with a financial advisor. Laura seemed genuinely committed to fixing things. But something still felt off. The way she guarded her phone. The way her stories about late meetings never quite aligned with office schedules I could see on her company's website. Small things, barely noticeable on their own, but together they formed a pattern I couldn't ignore. 2 weeks after finding the statement, I did something I never thought I would do. While Laura was showering, I checked her phone. The pit in my stomach turned to concrete when I saw the text messages. Miss you already. Same time Friday. Can't wait to see you again. The hi at this time. Dozens of messages from someone saved simply as J. No last name. No identity. Just a letter and a string of messages that confirmed my worst fears. The credit card hadn't been for work expenses or shopping trips. It had been funding an affair. The receipts confirmed it all. Weekly charges at hotels around Austin. Expensive restaurants I'd never heard of. Gifts purchased from jewelry stores and high-end boutiques. All while I worked 60-hour weeks to build our future together. That night, I slept in the guest room. Laura didn't ask why. The next morning, I called in sick to work and spent the day in a daze. By evening, I had made a decision. I wouldn't confront her, not yet. First, I needed to understand the full scope of her deception. I used our Amazon account to order a small GPS tracker, the kind parents use to keep tabs on their teenagers. When it arrived, I placed it under her car. A breach of trust, yes, but what was one more in a marriage already drowning in lies? The tracker confirmed what the credit card statement suggested. Every Friday, Laura's car would park outside the Hyatt downtown for approximately 3 hours. Sometimes Tuesdays as well. Never at lunch, always after work hours, when she was supposedly at networking events or client dinners. For a month, I gathered evidence. Bank statements. Text messages I photographed while she slept. GPS logs. I documented it all with the precision of someone preparing for a court case, which, I realized with growing numbness, I probably was. But even as I collected proof of her infidelity, another part of me was frantically searching for signs I was wrong. Maybe there was an explanation. Maybe Jay was a female friend. Maybe the hotels were for legitimate business meetings. Then came the video. Laura had forgotten her laptop at home one day. A notification popped up while I was using it to pay our bills, our legitimate, shared bills. An email from Jay with the subject line, "For your eyes only." The attachment was a video of them together. Not just intimate, loving. The way they looked at each other, spoke to each other, touched each other, it was clear this wasn't just a physical affair. They were in love. And Jay had a face now. Jason. Tall, handsome, and at least 10 years younger than me. The kind of man who probably never worried about mortgage rates or retirement plans. That night, when Laura came home, I pretended everything was normal. We ate dinner. Watched a show. Went to bed. All while the images from that video played on repeat in my mind. The next day, I contacted a lawyer. Not for divorce, not yet, but to understand my options. What I learned was sobering. Texas is a community property state. The debt Laura had accumulated during our marriage would likely be considered shared debt, regardless of whose name was on the card. The house we'd spent a decade paying for would probably be sold, the proceeds split, even though my income had covered most of the mortgage. But the financial impact paled in comparison to the emotional devastation. 12 years of memories, now tainted by doubt. Had she ever loved me? Was our entire relationship built on convenience rather than connection? The lawyer suggested gathering more evidence before confronting Laura. The more you know, the better position you'll be in, she advised. So I became a detective in my own marriage. I set up a small camera in our living room, legally questionable, but I was past caring about such distinctions. I recorded our conversations, hoping she might slip up and admit to the affair. I created a fake social media profile and sent Jason a friend request, which he accepted without question, giving me access to photos of them together dating back over a year. One image showed them at a resort in Cancun. The same week Laura had told me she was at a marketing conference in Chicago. My conference registration confirmation email still sat in our shared inbox, another lie she hadn't bothered to cover properly. 2 months into my investigation, I had enough evidence to confront her and file for divorce. But something held me back. A cold, calculating voice in my head that whispered, "She needs to feel what I'm feeling." The plan came together gradually. First, I opened my own separate bank account and began transferring small amounts from our joint savings, nothing suspicious, just enough to build a cushion for what was coming. Next, I contacted Laura's company HR department, posing as a prospective client who had seen Laura and Jason together at a hotel bar and wondered if their relationship might present a conflict of interest, given that Jason worked for a competing firm. I used a burner email and didn't leave my name. Just planted the seed. Then I reached out to Jason's wife. Yes, he was married too, another detail I'd uncovered during my investigation. I sent her copies of some of the tamer text messages and a few photos, along with hotel receipts showing her husband's credit card had paid for rooms on dates she probably thought he was working late. The final piece fell into place when I convinced Laura we should renew our vows for our upcoming anniversary. A fresh start, I suggested. After everything we've been through with the financial issues. She agreed enthusiastically, perhaps seeing it as a way to alleviate some of her guilt. We set a date. Reserved a venue. Invited friends and family. Laura threw herself into the planning with suspicious energy I now recognized as compensatory behavior for her guilt. 2 days before our vow renewal ceremony, everything detonated at once. Jason's wife confronted him about the affair. He panicked and called Laura while she was at work. According to a sympathetic colleague who later told me everything, Laura took the call in a conference room, not realizing the walls were thinner than she thought. Her tearful conversation with Jason was overheard by her direct supervisor, who was already investigating the anonymous tip about their relationship creating a conflict of interest. By lunchtime, Laura had been placed on administrative leave pending an ethics review. She came home early, mascara streaking her face, to find me calmly packing my clothes. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Exactly what it looks like," I replied. "I'm leaving." "But, the vow renewal. Our anniversary." I looked at her then, really looked at her, and felt nothing but a cold satisfaction. "There won't be a vow renewal, Laura. I've known about Jason for months. The hotels, the gifts, the trip to Cancun when you were supposedly in Chicago. I know everything." Her face crumpled. "Michael, I can explain." "Save it," I cut her off. "I've already spoken to a lawyer. The papers will be delivered tomorrow. I've also taken the liberty of sending our families and friends a detailed explanation of why the vow renewal is cancelled, along with some select text messages between you and Jason. Hope you don't mind." She collapsed onto the couch, her entire body shaking. "You can't do this." "I already have," I said, zipping my suitcase. "Oh, and that credit card debt you've been hiding? It's all yours now. I've documented that those expenses were personal, not marital. Good luck paying it off on unemployment." As I headed for the door, she called after me, her voice breaking. "Where will you go?" I turned back one last time. "That's no longer your concern. But don't worry, unlike you, I'm not running away with someone else. I'm just running away from you." The next few weeks were a blur of legal meetings, property negotiations, and awkward conversations with mutual friends who had to choose sides. Most chose mine after seeing the evidence. Laura's carefully cultivated image as the perfect wife had crumbled completely. She lost her job. The ethics committee found that she had indeed used her position to steer company business toward Jason's firm in exchange for special treatment. A clear violation of company policy. Jason's marriage imploded as well, though I heard he and his wife were attempting reconciliation. He cut off all contact with Laura, apparently deciding his marriage was worth more than their affair. As for Laura, she moved in with her sister, burdened by debt and unemployment in a city where her professional reputation was now in tatters. The house, our house, was put up for sale. I should have felt vindicated. Everything had gone according to plan. Better than planned, actually. Laura had lost everything: her marriage, her job, her reputation, her lover, her financial stability. Yet as I sat in my new apartment, surrounded by boxes containing half of what had once been our shared life, I felt hollow. The revenge I'd so carefully orchestrated had cost me something too. The person I used to be. The man who would have given Laura a chance to explain, who would have considered forgiveness, who wouldn't have calculated the precise sequence of events that would cause maximum damage to someone he once loved. 6 months have passed since I left. The divorce is final. The house has been sold. Our friends have adjusted to the new reality of engaging with us separately. Laura sent me a letter last week. Not an email or a text, an actual handwritten letter. She didn't ask for forgiveness or try to justify what she'd done. She simply acknowledged the pain she'd caused and accepted responsibility for destroying our marriage. "You had every right to be angry," she wrote. "But I hope someday you find peace with what happened. Carrying this kind of hatred hurts you more than it hurts me." I want to dismiss her words as manipulative. To believe she's still trying to gain the upper hand somehow. But a quieter voice inside me wonders if she might be right. The revenge brought me satisfaction, but not happiness. Not closure. Some nights I still wake up reaching for her, forgetting for just a moment that she's gone and why. Yesterday, I drove past our old house. The new owners have painted the door a bright yellow. They've planted flowers where Laura's herb garden used to be. Life has moved on, as it always does. I've been offered a promotion that would require relocating to Chicago. A fresh start in a new city, away from the memories that haunt every corner of Austin. I'm considering taking it. There's a woman at work who's been hinting she'd like to get coffee sometime. She seems nice. Honest. The kind of person who would tell you if she wanted to buy something expensive instead of hiding it. I haven't said yes yet. I'm not sure I'm ready. Not sure I'll ever fully trust anyone again. The credit card statements still sit in a folder on my laptop. The text messages. The hotel receipts. All the evidence of Laura's betrayal, preserved like insects in amber. Sometimes I open the folder, just to remind myself why I did what I did. Why I had to do it. But lately, I've been opening it less often. Maybe that's progress. Or maybe it just means I'm finally accepting that some forms of betrayal can never be avenged, only survived. And perhaps survival, in the end, is its own form of victory.